Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips.
Hello everybody and welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey.
Hello everybody.
Hello Corey. We are broadcasting live in the studio this evening on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley on CIVL, and we're broadcasting from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. Well, thank you everyone who is joining us live on air this evening, and to everyone who is joining us as we stream on Facebook. We're delighted to connect with you this evening, and we've got a great show in store for you. If you're new to Unlocking Your Truth, I'll just explain that the show is a talk show, and we focus on metaphysics and spirituality. And every week we have a different topic. And we also have phone lines that are open for you, the listeners, to call us and to join in the discussion. And tonight's subject was requested by one of the members of our Facebook group, and she requested that we do a show about retrieving soul fragments. And we thought that was a fabulous idea because even though we've been doing this show for 4 years and we've covered all sorts of topics, we have never talked about soul retrieval. So that's what we're doing tonight. So listeners, if you are listening in on Facebook, you can type your comments and questions, obviously. But if you're listening live to the radio show, we do have a call-in phone number, and I'm going to read that out a couple of times over the show. The number is 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And once again, that's 604-504-7441, extension 4142.
But we'll only be taking those calls a little later on during the show. Not right now, though, right,
yeah,
Dr. Lesley?
In about 20 minutes' time. But it's always good to be up on what's going on, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so let's talk about soul retrieval. And I feel like I should start by just giving a definition of what is soul retrieval, because everyone listening may or may not have heard of it before. So traditionally, soul retrieval is thought of as it's a shamanic healing technique, and it's been used in many different cultures around the world for thousands of years. And it's used to help people to release and let go of trauma, pain, other emotional wounds, energy blocks, illnesses, self-sabotaging beliefs and behavior patterns. So a lot of the things that we talk about on this show, and we talk about healing on this show, this is a technique that can help address those things. And shamans believe that soul loss is a common cause of illness. And in their practice, therefore, it's really important to conduct a soul retrieval as soon as possible after somebody has experienced some kind of trauma, to protect against that possibility happening. So that would be a definition of what soul retrieval is. But I also think we should just look at what our perception or concept of the soul is. And also this idea of why would we need to retrieve part of the soul? Can you lose part of the soul? What is a soul fragment, for example? So let's talk about what is the soul. And I'll share with you my concept of what is the soul. First of all, your soul is energy. It's your source. It's where you are projected from. It's a stream of consciousness that is you. And you and your body are contained within your soul. So it encompasses you. Your energy comes from it. Yet the soul is more than you are. simply because, as well as encompassing you, it encompasses all of your past lives, all of your future lives, all of your lifetimes in this world and other worlds, so all inter and multi-dimensional projections of consciousness. And your soul is eternal, and it exists outside of time and space, and it projects its energy and consciousness into time and space, and you are one of those creations within time and space. And so a portion of your soul's energy stream is projected into the unique expression of its consciousness, which is you. So that would be my definition of the soul. It's not something that you have. It's not something that's outside of you. It's something that you are contained within, and that is the source of everything that you are, and is a greater pool of consciousness that is you, that you can connect with and tune into and access information from. So let's talk about soul loss. And is it possible to lose part of your soul? And the answer is, in my opinion, you can't lose all or part of your soul. But you can become less conscious of it, and you can become less conscious of your spiritual nature. And this, in some sense, it happens to every single one of us when we're born into a physical body in physical reality, and we start to orient ourselves to the physical reality. We start to interact with the physical nature and other physical humans. We have to, just in order to do that, focus away from the non-physical reality and focus into the physical reality. And so you focus away, you tend to therefore focus away from your spiritual senses and focus more on your physical sensory apparatus. You focus away from the higher self and into the physical body personality. And so there's some form of separation in that, just because of the way that the consciousness is focused in the physical world. And then if that wasn't enough, on top of that, then you also end up going through the ups and downs of life. And in the going through the ups and downs of life, we all develop an ego that helps us deal with the challenges of life and is part of our response to the challenges of life. And many of us have quite a powerful ego, and what Eckhart Tolle called the pain body is built up, which is this collective of our unconscious pain and so on and so forth, which can get triggered. And the ego or the pain body is also something that causes the illusion of separation from the soul or from the higher consciousness. And they are there, they attempt to dominate your reality to control it as a way of keeping you safe and protecting you. So that all of that results in a loss of awareness of who you are as spirit. And also a loss of awareness of the soul or the entity that you are part of and that has created you. And so we might say, in some sense, this is a way in which you've become fragmented or have the experience of being fragmented. And
I don't want to be fragmented.
No, well, yeah, it's kind of just what can happen. It's kind of just what can happen. But you can't ever be disconnected. You can have the illusion of being disconnected from spirit, but you can't ever truly be disconnected from it, because it is who you are. It is that which you are born from, that which you are projected from. You can't lose your soul. You are contained within your soul.
A lot of people liken the soul to the spirit, vice versa. And I think one of the big questions people have is, which is it that lives on after you? Are they the same or are they different? You know?
Well, I usually use the word spirit. You'll hear me use the word spirit more often than the word soul. I'm using the word soul today because the lady who requested we talk about this subject called it retrieving soul fragments. But to me, there's no difference. You are spirit.
Yeah, I think it's actually a very interesting topic. I did some work on this years ago. I did a soul retrieval painting years ago. It was really fun.
Very cool. So you can't lose all or part of your soul, but you can experience fragmentation. And what happens when you experience a traumatic event is that your consciousness sometimes will leave the body, because at that moment, the body is an unpleasant place to be. And if you've been through many traumatic events, the consciousness may tend to just permanently not be in the body because the body is full of pain. And when this happens, the body feels abandoned and feels like it's left to cope with the situation alone in the absence of spirit. And that strengthens the ego pain body. And, the energy of the traumatic event and the low vibration emotions all can get trapped within the body and occupy the space that was meant to be occupied by spirit. So in one way, when that happens, we could say that you've lost an original part of yourself. You've become fragmented. An energy that was meant to be occupying your energetic space is now being occupied by something else. And, space that your high vibration energy is meant to be what occupies your physical body and your energy field. But if you're not there, something else can take its place, right? So you can fill your energy field with pain, trauma, and so on. And so this process of soul retrieval is a process of getting you back to that state where it's you in your body. And I'm going to talk about that process in a little bit, but I also, just in thinking about this topic that we were asked to discuss, I just wanted to take it a little bit bigger, even bigger picture, and just to say that, previously we described the soul as consciousness, and more specifically as a stream of energy. And this stream of energy, this stream of consciousness, flows in many directions, and your soul projects consciousness into many realities. It's multidimensional. And so there are fragments of your fragments or streams of your consciousness that exist right here, right now, but also then and there. Any other life forms that have been created by your soul could be called a kind of a soul fragment. All your past lives, your parallel lives, your future lives, they could all be called a soul fragment. Existences in other dimensional realities and so forth. These are all rivulets of consciousness. These are all the streaming of your consciousness belonging to the same soul stream. And in actual fact, even some of your guides can be projections of your own consciousness. But from your perspective, they seem like they're somebody else, but ultimately they can actually be coming from the same stream of consciousness that is you. You just forgot that this is another aspect of me, so you experience it as separate from yourself.
So if I know that at one point, especially when I was doing, as I said, the soul painting, we just did a meditation and invited anything that we were missing to come into reality, into our being at that time. However, if as spirit, aren't we all just one entity? Aren't we just like the one? We don't change, though. Our soul, our spirit is that exact thing all the time.
Ultimately, we are one, But the one has fragmented itself in order to experience itself. And so again, it's hard to conceive of this. We have to use analogies, really. But analogy is to just think of a giant pyramid with source at the top and then splitting into two. And those two can now look at one another, and each contains a part of the whole, but neither is all of the whole. And then they split into each into two, and so on. And so along this tree of life, these nodes or points can represent souls. And then each soul has its own projections of consciousness. So that's another way of seeing that. So yes, we are ultimately all one, but we are also individuated consciousness, and we are the one experiencing itself as individuated consciousness. I mean, another analogy, in thinking of the soul, is to imagine the ocean. So the soul is the ocean, and you are a droplet or a rivulet in the stream of the ocean. But you are water, and the ocean is water.
I understand the point you're trying to get at, but it can become a little bit confusing every once in a while, especially when you think that we can actually live in more than one existence at one time.
And we do.
And
time is an illusion.
and time is an illusion. And then all of a sudden, you look at that, so you talk about soul fragments. So do each of those spirit entities that are living at the same time have they have the same portion of the soul and spirit?
Okay, so...
Or are some missing some fragments that are in the other person?
So each individual has its own unique life force energy, which is distinct. And yet at the same time, it is all part of the one soul or the one spirit.
And I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't bring in soulmates at this point in time as well.
Well, you know what? We can talk about. If people want to talk about soulmates, we can talk about that in the question and answer session, because really what we're talking about is soul retrieval. And yes, we can talk about that, but we're heading on to a break, and so there's a few more things that I was wanting to talk about, because we're talking about soul retrieval and how through trauma you can end up separating from part of yourself, and you can end up with this fragmented consciousness. Another way that this can happen is if you think about when you have trauma, when you experience a traumatic event, the trauma can be stored in a specific part of the body. And if you don't face it and you don't heal it, what often can happen is you end up walling it off and pretending that it doesn't exist. And this can be how illness develops from trauma. Or you might bury the emotions associated with the trauma and not allow them to be processed. And you might forget the circumstances of the trauma and even replace it with false memories. I mean, that's a real phenomenon, especially in the case of sexual abuse, that people will often believe that they had a wonderful childhood and that nothing bad ever happened to them. And that can be reinforced and supported by the other people around them as well. Well, we've actually reached break time.
Wow, that was quick.
And we haven't even talked about, the healing process of the soul retrieval. So we better go for a break, and we'll be back after these few short messages.
For those people on Facebook, stay tuned.
Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey.
I'm still here.
We're broadcasting live across the Fraser Valley on 101.7 FM. And Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. And every week we have a different topic. And tonight's topic was requested by one of our listeners. And she asked us to talk about retrieving soul fragments. So that's what we've been talking about today. And at the beginning of the show, we were talking about this concept of losing parts of yourself. So as you experience some kind of trauma, that often spirit leaves the body and vacates the body becomes an unpleasant place to be because it's full of pain. And so part of your energy that's meant to be in your body is no longer in the body, and you've got pain there instead. So how do you reclaim that lost energy?
Good question. Would you like me to tell you? No.
So soul retrieval is one name used to describe this process. And there are many different healing modalities and techniques. I do this all the time for people. I don't necessarily call it soul retrieval. But I mean, I think anyone who works with healing trauma and helping somebody to release the trauma is engaging in this process. So and what happens in the process of soul retrieval is that the practitioner basically locates the energy that is separated from the individual by identifying the time and the place and the circumstances of the loss. It's actually also possible to reclaim energy that was trapped in past lives, that got left and stored in specific places on the planet. Or it is. I
just find that interesting.
Yeah, you know? I have a whole meditation that I do on that. I think we did it in our past life workshop that we recently did.
Yeah, it's just the way you said that. It reminds me of an Easter egg hunt. And we go around the planet trying to find these little soul segments. Actually, that holds true with another concept I have about that as well. It's about every time you get one of those soul segments, or little pieces, it's
energy packages.
Yeah, energy. It's an energy package.
That's what it is.
That eventually, if you get enough of them, you can do amazing things. I mean, we can do them now, but I mean, the more you get, the more you become your full spiritual self.
You're becoming embodied, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do this great meditation where we go out of body and circle the planet and actually look for energy packages that belong to us and retrieve them. It's also possible for your energy to be in other people. Other people can absorb your energy, and so you can reabsorb it back from other people. And you can have energy tied up on the astral plane or in other realities, just depending on, the circumstances that led to it happening. The energy can end up being in different places. And I would also say, retrieving the energy is only part of this process, because if you retrieve the energy, but you don't also heal the trauma and release the pain, where's the energy going to go? Because the space is being occupied by the pain. So retrieving the energy is only part of the process. The energy needs to be received, it needs to be integrated, and it needs to be retained by the person who's being helped. So you have to clear the pain and trauma so that you can create the space that energy is meant to occupy. And so if the person's not helped to let go of their barriers, their resistances, their blocks, and their other limits, the energy is still going to remain outside the body and it won't be integrated. So I read a kind of really cool analogy which said, in some senses it makes sense that you might leave the body if you know you're going to crash your car, that you leave the body because you don't want to be present for that. Or if you do crash your car, and you end up going unconscious, you're going to leave the body. But you just don't want to leave the parts of yourself hanging around on the highway. You want to gather them all back up together. So we've talked about this idea of soul retrieval and soul fragments and being separated, parts of yourself being separated. So how do you know if this applies to you?
Everybody
I would say, if you're alive on this planet, this applies to you. But here's a few sort of clues about it. If you feel like you're missing an important part of yourself, if you feel like you're not quite whole, if you've suffered any kind of physical, emotional, mental sexual abuse, if you feel unworthy, if you feel invalidated, if you judge yourself, if you don't accept yourself exactly as you are, then you're not owning your space. You're rejecting parts of yourself. And if you're rejecting parts of yourself, then you're fragmented. You've separated yourself from yourself just in the judgment of yourself. And you're also fragmented if you give your energy away to other people. So a lot of people do this. They want to please other people, make other people happy. And so all their energy drains out into assisting that other person with their life and their reality. If you put yourself last and everyone else first. If the people that are attracted to you tend to be wounded, fragmented people in themselves, then that's a clue that you know, this is something for you to deal with within yourself, because we tend to attract people who are mirrors for us. And then the final question, once we've healed ourselves, once we've cleared the trauma and retrieved the energy and integrated the energy, how do you prevent this from happening again? And in one sense, leaving the body during or after a traumatic event, it's a kind of protection. Like if you're about to be punched and you leave the body, then you don't experience it fully. The problem is that your body isn't so lucky. Your body does experience it fully. Your body can't escape. You are spirit. You can escape into outside of the body, but the body's still there, getting punched in the face, as this example. So the body experiences the trauma regardless of whether you're there or not. So, but if you're present and you don't leave, if you're not present and you do leave the body, then the body is vacant. It's vulnerable. Other energies can take up the space. So the best way to prevent fragmentation is to be present, is to be mindful, is to really be here right now in your body. Now, that's not possible in all cases, right? In the example, you're unconscious because you've been in an accident. Well, you're not going to be in the body during that time. But then it's like to clear the pain and trauma as soon as you can, as soon afterwards, is to get present in your body and start dealing with it and processing it. Because if you don't, what happens is you end up with that trauma and the emotionality around that trauma. And because it's an energy signature within your system, it's like a little impulse, a little radio wave telling the universe, I am this. And the universe will match you up with another and another and another situation, and it will grow. And then you'll own less and less of your energy space and become more fragmented.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So
that reminds me of a quote from the Bible. It says, if you ever have an evil spirit within you and you get rid of it, you need to fill that empty space up with something good. Otherwise, that evil spirit will come back with 7 of its friends.
You need to fill it up with your own life force energy.
Yeah.
So,
there was a question from Kelly on Facebook, but I've lost it.
Have you?
I don't know. It might still be on yours because my Facebook popped out for a second. Maybe if you want to scroll down.
I can look for it. Why don't you read out the phone number again while I look for it?
Okay, our phone number again? Yeah. Am I supposed to know it?
Yeah, it's written down on this piece of paper.
Okay, if you want to call in, folks, just call in to 604. Hang on a second.
504.
Yeah, I'm going to read Dave's phone number out here because you've got that down there. 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And I actually know it off by heart, but when you said to read it, it went blank. 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And we'll answer your question, or Dr. Lesley will answer your question for you.
Yes.
And we do have a couple of questions.
I found Kelly's question.
Yes, it's a good one.
Yes, so her question is, I had some experiences surface today that caused disconnection from spirit for me at a young age, before 6 years old. I had some experiences surface today. Okay, so she's remembering some event that happened when she was before 6. And she says, It planted a seed in me, a belief that I wasn't good enough and that other people's rejection was something to fear and hurts me. I was wondering if I can help her move through that and let it go for good. Well, we can take a look at this. But Kelly, for things like this, sometimes you need a little bit longer than is on a radio show, but we'll take a look. But the first thing I would say, in just you becoming conscious of it and it's surfacing and you realizing that it's there, that's actually a step in the right direction. That's actually a step in the path of releasing it. And so when I look at your energy field right now, it's kind of interesting. Your auric field, there's a ring like the ring around Saturn, except it's going around your middle. It's going in front of your third chakra. And that's the energy center that relates to feeling empowered or feeling disempowered. And so you were saying that you felt disempowered. I think you were saying you felt invalidated and rejected. And so what it looks to me like is in the remembering of it, you've actually thrown all of this stuff out into your auric field because you are in the process of letting it go. And the other thing I see about your energy field is that there's a lot of past time energy. So you've stirred it up. It was buried and you've stirred it up and it's all started pouring out. So what I can do very quickly here on the radio show is just give you a hand in, it sort of looks like you're sort of sitting looking at it. But the next step is to start releasing it. And so we'll start to give you a hand having that be released. And one of the things that I'm doing to help you release it is helping you get grounded and helping that energy that came up to be released to start being let go of down the grounding cord. And for any listeners who don't know what grounding is, we've got some great podcast episodes with even meditations in them to teach you grounding. Yeah, so Kelly, I would just validate that it actually is happening. And as I'm working on your energy field, and as I am starting to clear some space, what's actually happening is you're naturally injecting your own life force energy. So I'm seeing this bright red life force energy coming in at the top as I'm draining this out down the bottom. And so the answer, can I help you to release it? Yes, I can help you. I can help you to release it. And so we've got it started, we've got it in motion, we've got it moving. And if you feel like you need to connect with me to get some more assistance, please do. So do we have other questions?
Yeah, we do have some, but it's
break time again.
It's break time again,
yeah.
So we should just go to a break, and after the break, we can do some more questions.
Sure. Okay, listeners, you've been tuning into Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey, and unlocking your truths about metaphysics and spirituality. And this evening, we've been talking about soul retrieval. We'll be back after these messages. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and Corey. We're broadcasting live across the Fraser Valley on 101.7 FM. And this evening on Unlocking Your Truth, we've been talking about soul retrieval, retrieving soul fragments.
Yeah.
And we're taking your questions right now.
Yes, and we have a question from Helena. And Helena wants to know, why do I feel anxious any time with an authority figure or when I have to do something that I have not done before?
Well, I'll take a look at that. Thank you for asking.
It's a good question.
Yeah, there's another question underneath it too. Okay, let's take a look. This might make you laugh. I hope it will. Oftentimes when we have these things as adults, it has its roots and its origins in our childhood. And, fear of authority figures is a classic one. Because who were the first authority figures in our lives? It was our parents. right? And so oftentimes if there's been an aggressive parent or a domineering parent or a really strict parent, we will end up with fear of authority. But yours in particular, it was when I have to do something I haven't done before. And what I saw was an image of potty training. And so here you are in your little tiny toddler body, maybe you can't even, speak properly yet. And you're having, there's an authority figure that is watching you and sitting you on the potty and telling you you have to go on the potty now. And it sounds funny, but I'm seeing that that's where it originates from, and you could also look at your relationship with your parents and see, who was the authoritarian within them, and other situations where you as a child were being told off for things. But that looks like that's the first origin point. So thank you for asking that question. And
there's another question, and again, I lost.
Okay, so the next question that I am seeing is, how can someone retrieve their own energy back for themselves? Yeah, great question, and of course you can. And I would say, through the reason I'm not struggling to answer it, but the reason I'm trying to give a considered answer is that there are many different ways you can do it. There are many different systems for meditating and many different systems for managing your energy and working with energy. But I would say the basic steps are heal yourself, and let go of any, the pain, the trauma that you have stored in your body. Be grounded and fill in the space with your own energy. And so here's a couple of things. You can, for example, if you're wanting to retrieve energy that you have separated from within this lifetime, you can look at your own timeline for your life. You can imagine it in your mind's eye like it's like a little line, a little pathway. And then you can look for spots along that timeline that show up, like little flashlights going off. And then go into each of those flashlights and see what was the memory, what was the situation that was happening then, what was the trauma that occurred then. And then now, where have I stored that in my body? And so it's this dual process of release of releasing the trauma that you've stored in your body and regaining the energy that you've tied up in the situation. And I would also say another simple way of answering that is ground, so that you release unwanted energy, and connect to source so that you have that direct connection to your energy flow. I mean, that would be a simple way of doing it. But there are all sorts of techniques for doing it. You could go on a shamanic journey into the different places. And if you weren't here when I was talking about my exercise of going around the planet to look for what you've tied up in past lives, that's another way of doing it. So there's lots of different options for that.
Okay, so we have another question that was actually sent to Dr. Lesley earlier, and this is from Jay. And Jay says, I'm a 63-year-old man. Since I was 16, I dreamed of being a 16-year-old girl. Am I supposed to be female? Was I a 16-year-old girl in a past life?
Well, the answer to the last part, was I a 16-year-old girl in a past life, is yes, because we've all been male and we've all been female, and we've all lived past the age of 16 in both bodies. So I would say, yes, you have been a 16-year-old girl in a past life. And we'll look at the question of being in a male body, but feeling like perhaps you should be in a female body. Let's see what we see about that. Actually, before I even look at that sometimes, I'm sure I'll get a lot of mail if I say this, but sometimes when somebody is in either gender body, male or female, and they feel wrong, like I'm female and I should be male, or I'm male and I should be female, oftentimes it's because they are somehow stuck or haven't let go of a past life that led up to the current life that they're in. And so they've sort of switched genders from the past life to this life, and they're still feeling energy from the past life. And that is confusing for them. And so part of the solution to that is just get in present time with the present body that you're in. And I would also say, if you're in a male body, then you were supposed to be in a male body. And if you're in a female body, you chose to be in a female body. Now, what you do in that male-female experience is a whole other thing, right? So, but if you're, and so let's take a look at this particular, I'm sure I'll get lots of mail from people about this. So, to me, it looks like, interestingly enough, I almost want to connect with this with what we've been talking about, because it looks to me like there was some kind of experience at the age of 16 that was a wonderful experience that made you feel connected. And maybe it was a first time sexual experience or something like that. But I'm just seeing that you got locked in. You got locked into that age 16. And so now your energy is all out of present time. So you're not in, it's like not in present time with the age and gender that you are right now. So that would be my answer to that.
Wow. Good answer.
I think there's another question.
Yes, there's another question from Tina.
Cool.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm glad you think so. Tina says, can you please tell me anything regarding what's this summer will bring? Heat.
Yes.
Lots of heat.
So, you might be new to me, Tina, because I believe you create your own reality. And so, and I also believe that from our perspective, all that is existing for us is right here, right now. And the future is kind of like this probability field, this quantum field spread out in front of you. And what future path you end up treading through that quantum field of probable moments is really up to you, because you move into the next moment depending on the energy that you are now. And so I prefer to talk to people about what is it that you are wanting to create, and then what could be within you that might be blocking that from happening. What's supporting that happening, and what might be blocking that from happening. Because you are the master of your own universe, your energy field, your life. That's your own personal creative universe. I'm just going to check that if you've put anything about what you want to create. No, you haven't. So let's take a look at your energy. So I'm seeing that you're starting a new growth cycle. And so that would make me feel that there's going to be some new things unfolding for you as you move forward from this point that you're in now. So right here, right now, I see this couple of vibrations melding together. And one of them's like this bright lime green, and the other is a dull, dusky pink. And so let's just take a look at those two vibrations. It feels like the difference between who I came to believe I am, partly because other people told me this is who I am, versus who I really want to be. You know, what I believe is possible when I keep my consciousness within the limits of what programming I've been given and the way my life has been so far. versus just like the spring green shoots are shooting up in our gardens right now, and all the spring flowers are blooming. It just feels like you just want to open yourself up to the sun and dance in your own unique expression of self. So I'll go back to saying, you know what, the summer's going to bring whatever you invite it to bring, but it looks to me like you are wanting to clear limits and rebirth yourself in some way. So that's what I'm seeing for you. Thank you for asking. Do we have another question? We've got 4 minutes left. Did she say something else?
So yeah, Tina, she adds to it. She says, "There's so much I wish to do. I'm where I am because of my dad's failing health. What you are saying makes sense. I have a whole new vision of me."
Yes. Okay, well that makes sense. So in knowing that information, it looks like the dusky pink is the energy that's relating to your dad's failing health, because it feels like that. I mean, the pink is an affectionate energy, but it's sort of dusty and grainy and grey because it's you're helping him because you love him and he's your dad, but on the other hand, it's a really tough situation. And so that's why we got those two energies. There's the energy of you dealing with your dad's failing health, which is the dusty pink, and then there's this green energy, which is you wanting to recreate yourself. So that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, change again. People talk about change. Change is inevitable.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, and especially parents. I mean, I've had issues with both my parents failing health, and you sort of. I don't believe you become the parent, but there's for those people that have a sense of responsibility or a sense of love, one of the two. Failing health in a parent is a hard thing to deal with sometimes. But yet you've got to remember that you are who you are, and your parents wouldn't want you to tie yourself down because of them. No
Yes.
matter if they love you, they would never want you to tie yourself down. But I can also tell you that taking care of my parents when they were ill was probably one of the biggest blessings I've ever received in my life.
I'll also bring it full circle to what we were talking about today, which is giving your energy away and having your energetic space occupied by someone else's energy. And this is really, really common in families and especially in that type of situation. And so part of what you're dealing with is, of course, your dad's energy.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been an absolute delight spending time with you this evening. And listeners, we will be back on CIVL at 7 o'clock Pacific time next Tuesday, on broadcasting live on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley. And we'll be streaming live on Facebook as well.
Yeah, this is fun. Is everybody having fun on Facebook? If you are, let us know. And again, let us know what you'd like to hear.
Yeah.
As far as the topic is concerned.
Post your requests for what you want us to talk about in the Facebook group. All right, listeners, thank you so much, and we will be back in the studio next week.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Lesley Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. You can also find the questions that were asked during this show at the website on our free card reading podcast page, where you'll find a full list of them. Come back again.